Social. Now we got social. Take away. Take away. Take away. Hana, 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 away. Hana, hana, away. Take away, take away, take away, hana 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 away, hana 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 away. Take away, take away. Take away, hana 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 away, hana 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 away. Take away, take away, take away, hana 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 away, hana 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 away. Sombras de la migra, shadow capes of the border patrol. Cuando una muere, una nueva fea capa blanca aparece. As each one dies, a new ugly white cape appears. La migra, escucho sus anuncios en el radio. Border patrol, I hear your advertisements on the radio. Dices, unete y lucha contra los terroristas. You say, join us and fight terrorists. Y otro dogal se aprieta alrededor de garganta de otro inocente. And one more noose tightens around the throat of one more innocent. Inmigrantes en su propia tierra. Immigrants in their own land. Y yo soy uno con ellos, un inmigrante en mi propia tierra, and I am one with them, an immigrant in my own land. La migra, tú no proteges la libertad causando muertes de inocentes. La migra, you don't protect freedom by causing deaths of innocents. Reza por ellos, los perdidos. Pray for them, the lost ones. Tú eres el terrorista con su capa de dogales. You are the terrorist with your cape of nooses. You tear the veil that separates los perdidos from this world and the next. But you are the ones who are lost behind your mask of death. Reza por ellos, los perdidos. Pray for them, the lost ones. Reza por ellos, ellos mueren por tu culpa. Pray for them, they die because of you. Pero los perros ricos del norte menean la cola, que es la migra. Reza por ellos, los enfermos también. But the wealthy northern dogs wag their tails, which is the border patrol. Pray for them, the sick as well. Dia del duende, tocarán hasta después la muerta. They played even after death. El dolor la mató. The sorrow killed him. La mentiras lo mató. The lies killed him. La curva de sus labios lo mató. The curve of her lips killed him. Los cigarros lo mató. The cigarettes killed him. Reza por ellos, los perdidos. Pray for them, the lost ones. Mátame si quieres. Kill me if you want. Tu hermosura pera mi corazón también. Her beauty stops my heart as well. Mi dama preciosa dejarán tu cuerpecito en la calle. My precious lady, they left your little body in the street. Y entonces el fuego advertido, yo estoy aquí. And then the fire warn, I am here. Solamente cuando la capa alrededor, el uniforme verde de hecho de dogales. Only when the cape around the green uniform was made of nooses. The cape was made of nooses. 1,000 dogales, 2,000 gales, 4,000 dogales, 1,000 nooses, 2,000 nooses, 4,000 nooses. Lo fue la tempestad del fuego de inocentes perdidos que mandóse del racismo. It was the firestorm of innocence lost, burning from racism. Reza por ellos los perdidos. Pray for them, the lost ones. La guitarra toca la canción, las lágrimas por los perdidos. The guitar plays the song of tears for the lost ones. En las sombras de 4,000 dogales vergonzosas, in the shadow of 4,000 shameful nooses. Welcome to Second Sunday Jihmye Poetry. And Happy New Year. We're gonna do a little housekeeping now before we get going. If you would like to read your poetry, there's a sign-up list over on the author's table. And over on the author's table, if you have CDs or literature that you published, my partner, Jimmy Collins, that's him. We did this together starting in 2011, and we did it for a year and a half, and he died from sickle cell. And he was a Black Panther back in Indianapolis back in the day. And he helped with a lot of things. The Black Panthers did 15,000 children in our nation at the height of their popularity in 15 cities, I'm sorry, in 15 or 9 cities. And so he said that we should be doing this when we do this open mic. And it has to be at a Black-owned business. Frank Moody on the phone over there is a veteran of the Air Force of 20 years. He served our country. Can we give him some love, please? Didn't have any trouble with this, and I don't have any trouble with that. And this is an all people's open mic, so welcome. Glad you're all here. The restroom is behind me to the left, and we have a little bit of a ritual to do now. If you could repeat after me. Egg timers.
Egg timers.
Oh, come on, you can do better than that. Egg timers.
Egg timers.
Our burglar alarms.
Our burglar alarms.
Oh, there's an egg timer. And so you have 5 minutes. Each poet has 5 minutes. And I'm going to set your time for 5 minutes when you're in front of the microphone. If you want to do a real long introduction of your poem, and that takes 4 minutes, you've got 1 more minute to read your poem. And so you might think that, I care about all of you, you know that, but we have a tradition here that whoever comes up to the microphone is aware that people are waiting to read. So be kind to the people that are behind you waiting to read.
So it's about how many pages is that? It's 1 page.
Yeah, if you're gonna come up here and try to read your chapbook to us, that's not gonna work.
3-page poem.
That's probably not gonna
It's
work.
not gonna work.
Yeah, time that. Why don't you read it to yourself and time it and see if it's about 5 minutes. And that's what we want to do. We want to be respectful to the people who are waiting to read. That's one of the things we've always done here. So anyway, that's why we have the egg timer. If you go over the egg timer, I'm going to stand right there. And if you keep on going, I'm going to unplug the microphone. If you keep on going, your tail is wagging, you're growing horns, and you'll have to meet Igor. So I don't want anybody to have to meet Igor. He's with us today. So we're going to do the egg timer as a respect for all of you. So please listen to that. And I'm going to ask you to show some love for Alfred Williams, who's recording this. Alfred Williams was also an award-winning filmmaker, And if you are looking to have some, a really wonderful technician, a very intelligent technician to do your film for you, that's the man. And he's Joe and I have two websites because of him, and we continue to record our events because of him. So, are you ready for the poetry?
Yeah.
I forgot to say that the fact news hats are for sale on the author's table. And one of the things that we're asking you to do is understand, we're asking for donation. The donation goes to, along with the Intifada books, it's one poem in a book form by Steve Cowett, my mentor of 30 years. The proceeds from the hats and the Intifada book go to the students that are from Palestine that are here in San Diego, and we want to support them. And if you have points that call attention to what's going on in Gaza, we welcome those too. So our first poet is a grandma, and she comes to my poetry classes, and she gives really good feedback, but she writes much better poems. This is Anitra Carroll Smith.
Well, I was gonna read you something really cool before my poems, but I'm scared now by the egg time. So I have a question for you. During December, and in some of this coolish weather in January, do you ever feel like hibernating?
Yeah, hibernating, yeah.
Yeah, curl up somewhere warm.
Warriors.
That too, right. So I was finding that that's what was going on in December, and I wrote a poem
Anjali
about
wants to
hibernating.
read.
And I was gonna.
Julio wants to read. I think Kathy wants to read.
Oh.
Okay, to whom it may concern. This is to inform you that I have officially begun hibernating. All necessary payments will be auto-debited until further notice. You can find me curled up in a fuzzy blanket, like a shrimp. Occasionally, I might cock an ear to hear the midnight train clicking through El Cajon, blowing its whistle twice from the tracks near the trolley station. Or I might come up for a moment to hear the little pans of the rain pattering on the gutters. But don't expect much until sunlight butters over our shoulders and down our backs, and the leaf stems unfurl into seed, and sunsets boil up pearly yellow and unforgettable pink. Then I might lift my head and consider whether the world is worthy of my absent attention instead of my somnolent disregard. But then again, maybe not. The next one is called Yellow is Subversive. And when I was here last time in November, I talked about what I feel like all of us are hoping for in the next 4 years. So we're looking for our own strength and building our own good spots inside ourselves. And I thought, wearing yellow, that could be a thing. Yellow is subversive. Look down, and you'll see that hate and anger ooze out of weakness. But look up, and you can wear yellow to shoulder up to our powerful brother, the sun. As Paul Grohl said, no one is you, and that is your power. No one is you, and that is your power. I'm scared of the egg. How much do I have left?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna try and share this with you, this little thing, because it's so cool. You may be way ahead of me, but I never heard this in my lifetime. And you know how we all love stories, right? You love to hear a story. But there's a physiological reason for that. And I just found out in a workshop a few years ago what it is. So there's a and is the physiological foundation for empathy. In combination, this cocktail of neurological chemicals can fuel your creativity, enhance your memory, strengthen your identify purpose, and fuel resiliency. That's it. Okay, was that the timer?
That's good.
Scary little.
It should be 6 minutes.
No, I'm just kidding. 5 minutes is good. Yeah.
That was a computer.
Oh, and my project too. And if anybody would like me to play with the poetry meeting, I might just let me know.
That's why we have this other microphone, so we can amplify the flute. Because in the past, we didn't do that, so it doesn't come out on, we're being recorded right now. So we wanted to come out on a recording. How many instruments do you play?
Oh, well, not much, but I play keyboards, and piano, and I used to be in a Celtic band called Liston Varmint. We played at Cooley's, and I played Irish flute, and I whistled and sang.
Oh, wow.
You wear golden slippers.
We're golden slippers.
Anisha can play anything she can carry, so if you want her to back you up, please do. Our next poet is a man who always has the kind of voice that you want to have when you read up here. This is Chris Ernest Nelson.
Yeah. Put that timer on high. AKA Santa. It's always best to leave them wanting more.
Jim.
Now,
Jim.
this thing's sagging like myself.
Jim.
Hello,
Mike,
Jim.
Mike,
Tell me it's sagging. Jack will help me.
okay.
Good.
Thank you, Jack.
Microphone is sagging. Thank you very much.
Can they see how much
And,
time I have? No, they look
I
at
need
it.
my time because I want you to all be very relaxed.
Moving.
I'm Chris Ernest Nelson, and this is Renaissance. In the sepulchral precincts of the temple ruins, all was silence and shadow. The Holocaust had burned to ash, and the prayers that once rose with the sacred smoke into the nostrils of hostile and capricious gods were answered by demands for suicidal sacrifices, fratricidal follies, and plagues. The prophets of peace, the heralds of redemption, and the messengers of grace were all put to death to prove that immortality was fiction and supreme power derived from its ability to plunder and hurt. The inner sanctum had been defiled by unbelievers. The high gates breached, and Jerusalem had fallen. As rats and scorpions occupied the Holy of Holies, tangled web and drowsy dust swept the galleries, and the basins for ritual bathing were time dry. The Gospels were wasted by neglect, and wisdom had become an archive of perverse philosophies and art, the sad ruins of a once noble people. What had become of the hands that set the stones, and the genius that painted the ceilings with the gods at play among vestal clouds in celestial light? What had become of the hymns and worship that inspired such noble passions and lifted the hearts of generations of weary, worn-kneed workers? Beneath the drifts of cobweb and dust, silent and reserved, the mystic poetry slumbers slumbers in forlorn tomes, preserving the legendary achievement of humankind for the day when courageous children will again occupy the remnants of civilization. They will discover how to dream and how to build again. Thank you very much. This is Bringing in the Sheaves. Many of you may know the old hymn. It was quiet in the morning. Only a hint of rose-tinted light crept into her room and blessed the unbroken tranquility with perfume of unfinished dreams. The light wore the color of sighs and followed her like a child. It toyed with the thoughts in the nursery of her mind and teased a tender lullaby from her lips. She had work to do, a ritual of love that guided her days with such sweetness and imbued her life with a purpose to serve the one she bore and ever cared for. As the long years came and went, she never failed, though some trials were more than she could bear. She did not complain, but loved and gave more deeply. She held each tender deed in the hollow of her thought, of her rough, worn hands. Her child's laughter as he played and his innocence as he slept were the water and air that sustained her. She would spend her lifetime planting seeds of love in the fields of the Lord, so that when the time came for her to rest, she would find herself the one to be bringing in the sheaves. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. Well, now you know what 5 minutes is. I got it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
We have some very talented people on Zoom that have come to be with us today, so we're gonna go Zoom room until we got all this done. And I'm gonna ask Kathy, are you ready to read?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
this is Kathy. You can love me.
Hello. The number on the matchbook is old and faded. The number on the matchbook is old and faded. The number on, that's when people handed out matchbooks at their businesses, a practice that's dated. A red matchbook covered with Hojokan restaurant. You took me to an elegant restaurant in Koreatown. Others wondered what was going on. It was an evening with a lot of class. A poor college student with a camel hair coat with a big collar of rabbit fur. All the rage in the 70s. You weren't alive then, but take my word. That was my first trip to New York City. Earl and me were dressed to kill and tried to get into the Rainbow Room. They wouldn't let us in. We were gone soon. Then on to Studio 54, a line of people out the door. 40 years later, I made my way to Lewis Martin Jewelry Store in Rockefeller Center. They were always happy when I entered. I sold them some vintage watches and took great pride. One of them in the window, couldn't believe my eyes. A white gold Longines, the prettiest thing you've ever seen. I did get to the Rockefeller Center, but not to the top. No longer cared. Freedom from this illusion has been declared. New York is not my home, but it could have been. Considered moving there after retirement, but didn't give in. The number on the matchbook, is it still good? I'll be looking for you in the Koreatown neighborhood. The sky is a hazy shade of winter. Next year has to be better. Put on your red turtleneck sweater. That was the message on the form letter, typed in triplicate with carbon paper in between, on the old Smith Corona that came from mean Kathleen. Papa said, learn how to type so you won't have to wait tables. That was great advice. I learned how to be concise. That mean husband paid the price. Would always cringe when I was in the kitchen using my knife. Won't you stop and remember me? This is how it's going to be. Get rid of the dark cloud. Yeah, you heard me. Say it out loud. Over 2 months, and they said my heart monitor was not connected. I felt rejected. They still had my old one in the record. That one was removed with no battery life. That's what they said. I was on the operating table and felt the pain. Am I going insane? Now my weekend trip is canceled because my 92-year-old stepmother has COVID. Don't think I'll be able to visit before I go. Who knows when it will snow? Starting at 6 p.m., that was my day, blow by blow. Thank you.
The gentleman that you're about ready to hear has, helps us with the sound every time he comes in here. This mic stand, he donated that to us, the cord, so we can, differentiate between what's Frank's and what's ours. And he's just, an all-around, really amazing, carpenter. He's a retired pipe fitter, but, he's a musician and a poet. This is Jack Stewart Smith.
Hello, family. I love you all. There is so little I can do about the past. My ancestors, where are you now? What have you done, good or bad? Plus, I know there really are too many of you to number. Though some of you may have brutally murdered, still others wept, praying for a miracle or peace. I'm not sure which side of the kill stick you were on. All that blood, all that blood, all that terrible blood. I cannot wash it from my hands because it is your blood. It flows endlessly through my heart. Different times, matriarchs and patriarchs, I've lifted my eyes towards the heavens, giving thanks while lying face down in mire, begging for a glimmer of redemption. I will either live my life to make up for your evils, or continue on with peace that you have sown. Truth is, you all sleep deep inside my soul. What mark will I leave on this beautiful planet? It still quite simply remains to be seen. Moving forward with these souls I call family. There is so little I can do about the past, but with all my family behind me, the future is so very promising. Thank you. Let me cry. I want to cry for 1,000,000 years, for tragedies, long suffering, and sorrows. May I lament with blessed eternal tears as shed by gods and angels. Cleansing tears made of the bluest sky with light rain from soft velvety clouds. Stirring tears, whirled and plunged into the heavens from giant ocean waves and hurricane force winds. Deeply dark tears created by rainforest storms, downpouring night times endlessly. Sudden August tears supplying monsoonal drenched drylands with healing passion filled moisture. Seek I now to find a peaceful place, the perfect space to rest, and let my tears flow. One day, as you walk alone, you may feel your heart pounding when a solitary drop from the sky lightly falls upon your face. Remember, please, dear one, these feelings I've shared, and know that's the tears I've cried for you.
Mi compa Julio, ahora leer.
Yes.
Julio Aguilar is a professor of Spanish literature at Baylor University in Texas. And we're sure glad he didn't spend the gas to come here. He's on Zoom. Give Julio some love, please.
Thank you, Jim. I'm going to read two very short proses, one in Spanish and then in English. Nuevo huésped. Hace apenas 3 días lo trajeron. Por eso todavía parece como asustado. Y en cuanto alguien, sin querer, se acerca a su jaula de madera, él pronto se esconde en el tronco ahuecado que tiene dentro de la jaula. Pero mira, es él quien me está observando ahora fijamente. Con sus redondos pedazos de piedra negra, está empezando a conocerme. Se está familiarizando con el aire del patio, bajo la fresca sombra de la bugambilia. Me acerco más a su lado y ya no se esconde. Ha triunfado su valor y quizás también su curiosidad, porque mueve en movimientos repentinos su menuda cabeza de arriba a abajo, de un lado hacia otro, como queriendo indagar sobre mi presencia. De un color azul casi eléctrico, su plumaje me invita a pensar en la atracción que impone al ojo distraído para ser halagado con la misma curiosidad que de su actitud emana. No se cansa de dar vueltas alrededor de su jaula, ya sobre el piso de cartón, ya más arriba, sobre su escondite, de donde a ratos me mira mejor. New guest. They brought him in just 3 days ago, which is why he still seems scared. And as soon as someone accidentally approaches his wooden cage, he immediately hides in the hollowed-out log inside the cage. But look, it's he who's staring at me now. With his round pieces of black stone, he's beginning to know me. He's becoming familiar with the air of the patio, under the cool shade of the bougainvillea. I come closer to his side, and he's not hiding anymore. His courage has triumphed, and perhaps also his curiosity, because he jerkily moves his small head up and down from one side to the other, as if he wants to investigate my presence. Of an almost electric blue color, his plumage invites me to think about the attraction it imposes on the distracted eye, to be admired with the same curiosity that emanates from his attitude. He never tires of walking around his cage, now on the cardboard floor, now higher up, above his hiding place, from where, at times, he can see me better. Designios del porvenir, masticando su alfalfa ha venido la cabra, hasta donde le permite la cadena que ata su cuello en dirección a mí. Pero después, atenta a cualquier movimiento, retrocede bruscamente. No, no temas, solo quiero platicarte. Apacible es la mirada de la cabra entonces, que nada más piensa en devorar su verde alimento. Me acuerdo cuando te la regalaron, tan frágil era que entre tus manos la tomabas para alimentarla, pero el tiempo ha sido pródigo con ella, que a estos 2 años ya es la reina del corral. Ay, pobre animal, si al menos maliciara el fin que le espera, no comería con tanta avidez. Mas, ¿acaso empieza a sospechar algo? Le han traído cáscaras de piña y apenas si se acerca a olerlas. Mejor sería, tal vez, que al compás de esa canción lejana que ahora nos trae el viento, la noche entiende mi dolor, continuara en su vida rutinaria alimentando su incertidumbre, mientras esta tarde que sonríe se aleja despaciosa entre los rumores del ocaso. Future plans. Chewing her alfalfa, the goat has come as far as the chain around her neck allows in my direction. But then, attentive to any movement, she retreats abruptly. No, don't be afraid. I just want to talk to you. Placid is the look of the goat, then, who only thinks about devouring her green food. I remember when they gave her to you. She was so fragile that you held her in your hands to feed her. But time has been generous with her, and 2 years later, she's already the queen of the corral. Oh, poor animal. If she suspected in the least the end that awaits her, she would not eat so eagerly. But are you beginning to suspect something? They have brought her pineapple rinds, and she barely comes up to smell them. It might be better, perhaps, to the rhythm of that distant song that the wind now brings us. The night understands my pain, that she continue in her routine life, feeding her uncertainty, while this afternoon that smiles slowly moves away among the sounds of the sunset. Thank you.
Next thing to do. Walk through that. I'm a Navy veteran. Our next poet's a Navy veteran. He was on a ship that went real fast. They called my ship large slow target. I really love it when he brings his wife with him today. And all the times that they're together. Because it reminds us about unity. This is David Legenhorst.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you all for having me here. It's wonderful to be with such a wonderful group of people. And my wife and I have only been together, well, married for 58 years together. I don't know if it's gonna last. So far, so good. So I call this the next four, or David's ramblings. David P. P is lowercase. The executive branch for the next 4 years has been decided. The winning party will also control the legislative branch. Some would say that they control the judiciary branch as well. Will this political power be used to improve the lives of our people? Where will we be in 2029? 248 years ago, this experiment in democracy began. E pluribus unum, our national motto. Out of many, one. Out of 13 colonies, one nation. There's 13 letters in that motto. Another interpretation of the meaning is from the writing of Pythagoras. When each person loves the other as much as himself, it makes one out of many. That was part of a discussion about the origins of societies and states, the result of basic family and social bonds. The bonds of our citizens have definitely strayed, not for the first time. Different opinions of slavery nearly split the nation. The war in Vietnam brought into question the meaning of patriotism. Now we face major divisions over the solution to uncontrolled immigration, the right of a woman to end a pregnancy, voting rights, treatment of religious and ethnic minorities, separation of church and state, rights of non-heterosexual people. Many on both sides see a major difference in values. It's not just values causing the separation. People on the right support a person for the presidency who has many shortcomings. A convicted felon, a womanizer, a liar, leader of an insurrection, and the list goes on. How do we bridge the divide? Are our fellow Americans enemies? Are people on the other side evil because of their convictions? Can we see the goodness in others? If we focus on differences, reconciliation seems impossible. Many would say that this is an issue of morality. Only one side has the high road. Things aren't usually that simple. It seems to me that some people vote on the basis of one or two hot button issues. They're willing to turn a blind eye to a candidate or party's other positions. It's a matter of priorities. All voters have the ability to research partisan positions. Now it's too late to change minds. The time is here to deal with realities. I'm 82 years old. Like all living things, I will die one day. Nations are not living things. They don't have to die. Some do, however, and many more make dramatic changes in their politics and values. Japan and Germany come to mind. My expectation for the next 4 years is that there will be ridiculous decisions and proclamations every day. To preserve my sanity and joy of living, I will not get sucked into this chaos. The news will not get close scrutiny. I will try to strengthen my bonds with each of my friends, and I will try to expand the number of friends. I will try my very best to share only positive posts. I will write more and listen closely to those I respect. Together, we will survive. E pluribus unum. Thank you. Thank you. This one I wrote years ago when Australia was on fire, but it seems appropriate right now. It's called Changes. The land is dry, the fires live, while all before them die. The grass, the trees, the moving things, the children wonder why. Satan's breath and hot caress, life reduced to ashes. At least for now, the sea won't burn. Maps of spreading rashes. Everywhere the change is changing. Nothing can adapt. What was is gone. What is won't last. Feeling so entrapped. The caps of ice now children's size. Bleaching bones of coral reefs. Our blue marble getting bluer. Challenging our coral reefs. The species that can end all life grow too arrogant to see. 4 horsemen coming at light speed. And nowhere for us to be. Thank you. I forgot to remind you that time is relative. Okay, I'm not through yet. I have a, okay, can I do one thing? One short thing? Okay, I have a beautiful young friend in Bangladesh, and she sent me a song which I would like to play for you. It's in Bangla. I don't know how many understand Bangla.
Let's do that at the end. We'll have Rooster at the end. Okay?
I can't hear you.
Why don't we do it at the end of the show?
Okay. You're forcing me on. So you don't understand that my mind goes at nearly at the speed of light, so my time is a lot slower. You got it. Watch me try. I have to mention, did you know that Jimmy Carter is also a Navy veteran?
Yes, I do.
He was commanding officer of a nuclear submarine,
Watch your step.
not just raising.
Watch your steps. Okay, very good.
Good job.
Thank you.
Angelina, you ready to read?
Yeah. I'm all- Is
Let's
there,
give her some love, please. Wonderful poet, Mrs. Hampton.
thank you so much. So I also wrote these 2 poems in the last hour before, our poetry meetup today. One thing I wanted to plug for is Alfred Williams is not only amazing with technology, he creates websites, He does films. If you need a book cover, go to him to design it, because he's designed 3 of my book covers that I have published. And he actually, the third one, it was an animated short story for adults, and he actually animated the entire thing. So he's really amazing at stuff like that. Just keep that in mind.
Thank you. Thank you,
So
my dear.
thank you. Well, thank you for everything. The first one is, they're both about 2 minutes. So the first one is called In Wholeness. You don't see me. You don't see me at all. Should I take the fall for that which was not my fault? You simply see the body in front of you. You see my smile. You think all is well with her. What you don't see is the contorted face of anguish and pain, my tears, which speak of the eternal sadness laden upon my heart, the helpless feeling when my hope is lost. You don't see me, the person whom is me, the battles I have fought, the courage I have won. Inside of me lies a vast ocean with endless depths, a knack for surprise, my dry humor. What you surmise that you see, what you can infer from the look on my face, is only just the beginning. They tell me not to be stuck in the past, to move forwards, to forget and move on. Oh, you're so pretty, so handsome. How could you be sad? You have beauty and health. You have it all. Those people, they know not of the great lessons and traumas of my life, but I am not broken, never was. No, I was led astray, and now I see this path that is wholly mine and mine alone. Those, the misunderstood, they know my pain. They see me in wholeness, and that I will hold on to. The next one is called Try for Hope. You consume the nectar of the fruits like you've never eaten before. It's because you've been starved of kindness and empathy, compassion for yourself rests not in your soul. If you did not have a teacher, then you must teach yourself of the goodness this life has to offer. You may be in pain, the sunshine raining daggers down upon you. You want to rip off this dark cloud, but you lack the tools to do so. So then say, I'm sorry. I will try again. Yet the pain and discomfort are relentless, unbearable. What to do? Just what to do. Then tell yourself, it's okay to not be okay. And live with your hope, which has been muddied for too many years, and sleep or rest. Actually allow yourself to rest. For to do nothing is to do something for yourself. Don't blame yourself for today when tomorrow has not yet happened. Find a moment and take a deep breath. There is hope for you yet. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. That's, I think 3 months in a row. Always good to see you. So if you came in late, we're doing 8-timer. Each poet has 5 minutes. Musicians have 10 minutes. And so we're asking you to be respectful of people that are waiting to read. And Viet, our feature is here. Can we give them some love, please? Got one more in front of me, brother. So, my goodness, Joe Malash is a friend. He's someone who's really been involved with poetry for a really long time, award-winning poet. And he might talk about his uncle, today. We're not sure what he's gonna do, but we guarantee you, he's a hell of a storyteller. Joe Balash.
Well, my time's up. See how Jim times that perfect. In the year of the ass, Donald Trump was elected president. That's the first line of a poem I haven't written. Yeah, I'm not supposed to laugh when I think I'm funny. My wife was here, she'd tell me he wasn't. In the days of my illness, on this cruise ship, it is easy to embrace the mournful pity forged by fever and AIDS. I hold my bookmark, a postcard of an apartment in 19th century Norwegian village. Each wall has 3 metal bars that appear to be a ladder leading nowhere. Now, my eyes act as if they don't want to cement this picture into my memory of the illness cruising through me. Already it's too late, because each day seems as dark as a picture of the iron rung securing the outer wall to the inner wall in this picture. These black bars fasten my dreams to memories. Am I dreaming a memory of my mother sliding her hand over my forehead during the fall when I suffered from mumps? No, reality disappears like steam under COVID's hot hand. Closing the fold journal of the plague year, I believe my mother, her face wrinkled with concern, leans over me. How I wish for the tenderness of her fingertips. Then, in the window, the sun appears, and I believe I hear it sinking into the North Sea. Everything is imaginary, even my mother offering me a cup of chicken soup. Thank you.
Before I introduce our next poet, I would like to address all the young people that are here today. I want to welcome you all. And I want to say that it's really important for us that we have a sort of a generational blend as here as well. As you can see, some of us are kind of long in the tooth, but when the young people are here, there's something that's really important about your freshness to us old people, and your perspective. And we hope that there's some things that we've been through that helped you. I was at an elders gathering 2 Sundays ago, and someone came up to me and thanked me for some of the Indian songs that I've sung there in the past. And I was one of the young ones there. And one guy was having his 90th birthday. Another fellow came up to me and he said, thank you for your service. You're a Navy veteran, I know. And I was a draft dodger. And he looked at his shoes. And I said to him, I want you to understand that there's 2 heroes in my eyes, 2 points of view that I see. And the first hero is the guy that rushes the enemy's machine gun nest and knocks them out and saves the lives of his fellow soldiers or Marines. And that's a bona fide hero. But the brothers and the sisters that went to Canada or went to Sweden because they could not kill another human being. That's another type of hero to me. And we had a name for you. And he kind of looked at me like, draft dodger? And I said, CO. We called you CO, conscientious objectors. And that's another way to serve your country too. So young people, welcome. There's more than one way to serve your country other than the military. And I'm going to ask, forgot who it is. Eric G.
Hello, everybody. The best you can be is to kill as little as possible.
Yes, that's good.
It's called exoneration. Wilted jacaranda petals tumbled before me in a tranquil zephyr, rushing past my feet like anonymous relatives. The vanished too finally offered sanctuary to my own aimless essence. The sun's generous feast nourished cooing silhouettes with exquisite scraps of seed dappling the cement. The beaming fever diffused through the cumulus, with nutritive sustenance to satiate abdomens the size of crab apple. This star surged with impassioned dynamism, and with feeble fists in mind, I brawled with an encroaching cloud, as if it would acquiesce and disperse by my psychic might. And to my surprise, a gale drove it away in a swift instant, while I stood and watched dumbly, still raging within as a serene hush of air wafted upward 550 fathoms. My rapture dazzled the sun itself and urged its easy creeping to project the shadows of my scalp, chest, and feet. As I stepped forward, its rousing blaze scorched my guilty soul, granting my criminal conscience pardon. Releasing me from my firm conviction, I've been discharged from the confines, the starless prison where my bruised blossom was hunted daily. When my gladdened plasma passed through prisms, pulsing out iridescent liberties, it rained my absolved abundance upon this flock of pigeons, wanting instead a starry, oracular radiance. So I fed them flowers. This is called captivated. She patrols her celestial shrine, whose broad, sticky webbing ensnares the eyesight. This is what she can be, abandoned, then springing forth in a sudden jolt. Marauding dignity's futile exertions barely, but brutally. She escorts the captivated through the wastes of faces, armed with an agile, deadly pendulum. She was born in a grave, where stone angels wrenched her free from the mad insect frenzy to initiate her rapid tutelage. On the tiny heights and troughs of the sound mounds nestled within, she listens to the fear in the quiet. Tethered secure, she leaps from her plane, trusting the soundness of her taut streamline. She zips and raids the glass of hours, shattering it to shards, ageless and transcended. Trampling the condemned in pandemonium, like a mean white horse, brightening the eyes of the devil, galloping through soundless fields of green prosperity, compacting brute enthusiasms into the soil of the stone. And her wind-fluttered mane whispers even farther than she can fall. Viscous oils leak from crushed cavities, nourishing strange organisms, who encroach with primal craving upon their feast of heaving vapors, wheezing with weak lungs and static inertia. These angels of stone. Thank you.
Can we give him some more love, please?
So
are you ready for the feature?
Yeah.
Well, I've been watching him for a long time. There used to be a place on 30th and University in North Park, and on Tuesday night, everybody was there. All the poets were there. It was called Claire de Lune's, I was one of the places he went to. He was also at a place called Lyrical Exchange in Elevated. That was at the Queen Bees. And he's a very, very strong poet. Mr. Viet is a social innovation strategist from San Diego, California, whose mission is to build peace and design impact through culture and conversation. He serves the community as an independent educator, spoken word artist, facilitator, and advisor. Jihmye is the founder of the Lighthearted Project. I hope you'll talk a little bit about that today and let people know about that. Get connected at vietmye.com. This is one of the times where I'm really glad we're recording this, because this young man, I hope he does this poem about math, because the first time I heard that poem, I knew if he was my math teacher, I would not have graduated the bottom third of my high school class. He's an amazing teacher. This is Jihmye.
We're just gonna get into it, is that all right? Yeah. So a lot of people ask me, hey, Viet, what do you do? And I used to tell them, well, I teach math. But since that doesn't quite sum it all up, I also add that I don't just teach math, I teach problem solving, effect, and what's causing it, logic, probability, like, what are the chances that Blacks and Latins get educated? Probably doesn't stand a chance to get incarcerated, stats, but not accurate. I took one class and that was it. Optimization was broken down into 3 courses, or 101A, B, and C, like the efficiency of education, medication, and world peace, geometry and measurement. Figuring out what shapes and sizes fit in our domain and range of how high you can go up the y-axis and how low you will go before you hit the negatives, algebra. Well, what the heck is X and why is that over there? What's missing? Or what are we trying to find? Well, I'm just trying to get paid, but there's not enough information given these days because inequalities obviously only go one way. So are you less than or equals to? Are you making money linearly or exponentially? Because I just put another K in my 401k. So I'd say functions are just like division problems. And division is just the opposite of multiplication. You see being divided doesn't produce anything. It's a quotient, not a product. But quota says APA needs to be at least at a minimum rate, but the rate of raising gas prices, it's nice to stay home with no fuel for the ride, right? Snack time, right before nap time. All right, I'm lying. I only work with kids from kindergarten to college. I mean, students, not kids, but no kidding. I do counting, the calculus, college bound, and just getting off the ground. You see, I don't just teach math. I'm Mr. Viet. I teach problem solving. So I've been an educator pretty much all my career, ever since I was an undergrad at UC San Diego. I was studying math and computer science. That's actually what my BA degree is in. But during the time I was working as a tutor and a mentor with the early academic outreach program, that's part of my my work study, my federal work study, part of my financial aid package. So during that time, it was, I spent like 40% of my life in the lab, right? Like in the basement of the math and applied math and science building. And we were coding, like it was just me and my classmates, and we were looking for semicolons and stuff like that. So it just wasn't really as engaging, and it didn't really fulfill me as much as me going to work, right? And being able to serve, namely San Diego High School and Gompers Secondary at the time. Now it's, I believe, like Gompers Charter or something like that. But I started to really get an understanding of what the gap was, right? Like we can talk about all kinds of gaps. It could be the achievement gap. It could be the tech gap. It could be the whatever, right? Gender gap. All these different gaps that I was starting to understand, not just in the educational system, but as society as a whole. So our program was the Early Academic Outreach Program, which essentially served underserved schools and communities and students. And so for me to be in that mindset, it really set the path for the rest of my life. So upon Well, while I was in grad school, or while I was in undergrad at UC San Diego, I discovered my voice through spoken word poetry, which is really weird because I was taught all my life, growing up, that I wasn't very artistic. You know, I'm Asian, so the stereotype was kind of pushed upon me. You know, I'm good at math, science, and get art because it didn't really do anything for us. But I found that to be very wrong, right? So I realized that because it wasn't until I got to college to really discover my true voice and my true passion, I decided to double down on education after I graduated and really got into the educational system here in San Diego, mostly San Diego Unified, also Sweetwater School District. And I was able to essentially make a name for myself, not just in the educational space, but in the spoken word and the poetry community. And so I was able to essentially start freelancing, right? People had requested me to do more presentations, more workshops, using poetry to not only help students identify and tell their stories, but also English teachers on how to incorporate poetry into their classrooms. So I was hired by schools, teachers, and even districts to really push literacy via poetry. And I thought that was amazing. So never in my life did I think I would get awards for teaching literacy, because when I entered UC San Diego, I actually had to take a remedial writing class, because apparently I didn't know how to write a 5-paragraph essay. But if I could speak candidly, can I curse a little bit? But fuck that, right? So I really am doubling down on what it means to really grow up in this world that we live in this place called America, where, you know, identity is super tricky. Okay, can you guys agree with me on that?
Yeah.
That's sort of the premise of this rest of this presentation. So without further ado, I'd like to get into my next poem. If you're ready, say, let's go.
Let's go.
My grandma died, and I don't really know how to cry about it. I was too busy working, too busy playing Halloween. I was just trying to create a future that I forgot about losing my past. You see, my bloodline feels so thin at times, it's no wonder why I get anemic. My roots are only as deep as San Diego suburbs. I was still a cub when I learned how to separate from the den. I then learned that family was anyone who fed me or let me sleep on their couch. You see, the only thing I knew about my grandmother was like she was a gam for her family. How bad, I have no idea. What was her hustle? No clue. But apparently, grandma was senile and had been for a while. Well, was she nice? Was she funny? Did she tell stories? What kind of stories did she tell? How did she? I don't know. But I know there should be at least like a mini lesson in social studies class. It says something about ethnic ceremonies and customs, how to properly honor our past. And science should teach something about family trees that look more like bushes and fallen leaves that aren't sure which branch they come from. See, I never enjoyed history because I can never connect to it. I learned more about war than I did about tradition. I learned that I learned that science. I learned about war than I did about tradition. I learned that through science, I learned that I was good at math, and I never understood why division was so difficult and why subtraction was so confusing. How could you just take away when I never had enough to begin with? I couldn't just borrow. I didn't have enough to begin with. So I didn't have enough to begin with. It's coming. My apologies. I got to revert the text. Let's go. So, okay. Okay, so, sorry. Okay. I never enjoyed history because I never connect to it. I learned about war, then about tradition, and I learned that foreign languages are only required to get into universities 2 years minimum 4 is a plus. So I pretended to have cooties when partnered up with the new Vietnamese girl that didn't speak any English. I didn't understand why the Vietnamese boy called me a disgrace. Shit, I was getting straight A's and stars on the green card, huh? So I knew that I was good at math and science, so I figured that death was just a part of life. But I never understood why division was so difficult and why subtraction was so confusing. I couldn't just borrow. I learned that point. So I couldn't just borrow. That was just foreign to me and my knowledge of family history. And I was taught that history wasn't as important. Only 2 years required in the A through G. I learned that history is why I have 4 half brothers. I learned that art was only an elective, and I didn't have to express myself if I didn't want to. I could just get the credit. I don't waste time with feelings or emotions. They don't put food on the table, a roof over your head, or clothes on your back. I learned that crying was only allowed for injuries, cuts, broken bones, bruises, feather dusters, wooden spoons. I learned about 911, stop, drop, and roll, duck and cover, and wait for the teacher's direction. But there were no drills that taught me how to deal with tragedy. I never learned what to do when mom breaks down. There was no manual for pushing the wrong buttons, no instructions on what to do about loss. I was just told to find it whenever something was missing, and I'm looking, but I can't find it because I don't even know what it is. So I'm sorry, Grandma. Don't taught me how to find it. Whatever it is. Pray. Son. Greg, can you help me out? There's a water bottle in my backpack. Thank you. So, you know, this poem called Fallen Leaves, it's a little dear to me. It's also kind of traumatic. It is an account of my upbringing where a lot of us, maybe you guys can relate, we aren't really coached on how to deal with our emotions. We aren't really coached on how to deal with adversity or trauma, even grief. And when this event, when this particular event happened, I got a phone call. I was actually working in data and testing administration for charter school on my contract. And I got a phone call. It was later in the evening. It was on Halloween. So I was kind of dressed up, had my dog with me, and as Petey from Little Rascal, and I was dressed as Alfalfa. It was great. We went downtown afterwards, had a blast. But when I had got that phone call, my mom had told me, you know, she said, don't cry about it. You didn't know her. She was the last remaining grandparent alive in my life, and I never met her, and I never been to Vietnam. So it did affect me because I felt like that was sort of the last string from my lineage, at least to pass. And yet, even though I do have an uncle on my mom's side, you know, 2 uncles on my mom's side, I don't really talk to them. I don't really, and my mom never really spoke highly about her mom. And so with that, there have been really real big gaps in my head and my heart about how I was to kind of like get to know myself and my history. So in sort of the past several years, I've been developing a better relationship with my dad and that side of the family. Yeah, I got to learn a lot, which I now continue to embrace. But it was a shift because I grew up with my mom and my brothers, my older brothers, and it was just kind of like my mom, it was just like all perspective from my mom's side, which unfortunately I didn't get a lot of great perspective about my dad's side. So now that I'm an adult, it's like I got to give myself permission to go ahead and start developing relationships with any family member, regardless of sort of the internal war that was happening between kind of 2 sides of the family. I don't want to get into that aspect too much, but hopefully you guys get a gist of what that might look like, because it is a challenge. And so with this next poem, I'm going to refer to text because I have not yet committed to memory. So this is one of my newest poems. And it's an honor for me to share it in this space. I've been coming here for we did recently community organizing, so it feels a little home to me. So if you're ready, say let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. Everyone who knows me has quickly, this one's called time traveling. Everyone who knows me has quickly realized that punctuality is a game that I somehow stopped showing up to practice. It is generally perceived that tardiness is inconsiderate, rude, even. Recent studies, however, suggest there are several reasons why people are chronically late. Recent studies, most people fall into four categories: the deadliner, one who lives for the rush of procrastination; the producer, a multitasker with a million items on the agenda; and the absent-minded professor, an optimist who falls into rabbit holes while stopping to smell roses; and the rebel, the guy who just doesn't give a fuck. Upon my own observations, I've identified another type and concluded that I'm actually the time traveler. They say depression is when you're stuck in the past. And I've been bouncing through time with no GPS to navigate me to the present. Sometimes I wake up and it's Wednesday, the last time I saw him. The moment my eyes reach for the empty space next to me, I teleport to the Tuesday, 1 April. I became foolish and thought I could see the future of us getting together. Sometimes hours go by and the shower becomes a tsunami, so I seek shelter under my covers. I'm transported to one stormy night, the first night she came over. I got an hour to leave the house. I splash water on my face, and it's 1984, and I'm in preschool at the water fountain, rinsing out my eyes after the first girl I tried to hug threw sand in my face. I quickly learned that not everyone will love you the way you want to love them. I remember playing hopscotch between my aunt, my grandmother, my mom, my dad. I guess being passed around like a hot potato, I just wanted to be held for a while. 40 minutes left to get ready. I blow dry my hair and I'm blown to the time I kissed her goodbye. She drove off and never came back. Instead of going after her, I went to the time my mom yelled at me for crying after my dad dropped me off and I didn't know when I would see him. 30 minutes before I had to roll out. When I rolled to the 8th grade, the time I got invited to Skate World, everyone knew I liked this girl. Even the popular kid who kicked the skate out from under me, broke my arm and my heart. I don't know what hurt worse, the setup or my mom yelling at me that it was my fault. At 43 years old, I still think my frail, crumbling body is my fault. Like my thin blood was an option, like I cut my spleen out of myself, like I chose osteoporosis before retirement. Now every time my bones ache, every time, what's wrong with me? 20 seconds and I gotta bounce. But I bounced 10th grade where I thought I was so cool taking this cute girl in my math class to my brother's prom. I learned the definition of cold when she stitched me for her friends. She saved the last dance, but I 2 steps to the time my mother rubbed the welts with healing balm. 10 minutes and I gotta go. I still have time to feed my dog. 9 minutes, she was a dog trainer. 8 minutes. At 16, I moved to my dad. My mom said she was done raising me. 7 minutes, but she kept the dog. 8 minutes, 6 minutes. This isn't the first time I felt abandoned. They say the first 5 years are critical to a child's development. All the time that I switched household, I should have mastered independence by age 2, 5 minutes. I still need to eat 4 minutes. I'm going to be late 3 minutes. They say anxiety is when you're stuck in the future. 2 minutes. We would have been good together. 1 minute. We were good together. 0. Maybe Einstein was onto something. He said that time is relative. Quantum physics suggests that we exist everywhere simultaneously. I guess I've been traveling through time, just trying to find particles of my confidence I left with other people. I've always been a late bloomer. I guess I'm still learning how to be present and on time. Time check.
7 minutes to go.
Two more poems. This idea of identity it's a journey to me. I'm 43 years old, for transparency. How many of you guys, just kind of show of hands, like, are still figuring out identity and at your stage or at your point in your life, or is that the question? Okay, cool. So I ask that because it's something, because our world is always evolving, right? Our country is even evolving, and sometimes we gotta rethink like where we stand on certain things. And sort of maybe we're going through sort of a career change, or maybe relationships happen and then they don't happen, and then we gotta figure out ourselves again. What we like, what we don't like, and we gotta go through that whole process. So I've been going through that phase. I feel like I lost my mid to late 30s because of depression, and I just really went into a really dark hole. And I pray that no one else has to ever go through that. So I love being able to share these stories because it allows me to help process, and hopefully it sheds light on some kind of factors that anyone else might be able to apply into their lives. So yeah, let's go into another poem that I feel like it's where my heart is in terms of the type of work that I'm about. And I'll do the poem, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the Lighthearted Project, and then I'll close out with another poem. How's that sound? So, this is also a fairly new poem, written in 2017, along with this time traveling poem. And it was actually when I was on the San Diego Slam team. We took first place in the Nationals for San Diego, and it was such a blessing to be a part of that experience. We stand on the giants of people like Jihmye, who's been in the poetry scene ever since he's been in San Diego, really. And so we've always learned from our elders, right? We've always learned from the previous generation of poets in order to, create the poetry scene that I think is alive and well here in San Diego. So for that milestone to happen in 2017 was a couple of things. It was sort of at the point of my depression where I decided I need to get out. I need to get out of this mess. I joined the San Diego Slam, I made it into the San Diego Slam team. And with that accomplishment, it just felt really good. I said, you know what, let's get ready for grad school. I applied for grad school, got in, and that's sort of what happened. And I challenged my mind because I couldn't keep being in my own head. So I needed to challenge myself on how to change the world. So
I could say something real quick.
Yeah.
That happened, that Slam team first place, that was against 85 teams from all over the nation. They came in first.
So I used to work with the mentoring program. I had to take a step down because I needed to work on my own prospects, and I'll share a little bit about that prospect after this poem. But this mentoring program is fairly local. It's actually in the Encanto area, 92114 zip code, and then surrounding, I want to say we because I'm still feel like I'm still connected. We work with youth who have been affected by incarceration. So it used to be children that have a parent in prison, but now we realize, well, what if there's an uncle? What if there's a brother or sister, or other family, or somebody that they witnessed somebody going to prison, or that are dealing with that loss in their life, so to speak. So we expanded to those who have been affected by incarceration, and hopefully we all know that our injustice system is very predatory, and also there's a thing called the school to prison pipeline. So this poem addresses this, but in a very unique way, because how many guys are a fan of Sesame Street or watched it or familiar? Yeah, so I think it's something interesting that I came across where Sesame Street plays a role in this narrative. So with that, if you're ready to say, let's go.
Let's go.
Ever since Sesame Street premiered in PBS in 1969, they've been on the cutting edge of public programming, teaching wide-eyed kids pretty much everything they need to know by the age of 6. The taught me how to count and feel powerful after. I learned C is for cookie, and that's good enough for me. When Mr. Hoover died, I understood that my next door neighbor, Mr. Dan, wasn't coming back. You see, Sesame Street always had this way of simplifying real life situations that I could relate to. But I didn't think they would continue to teach me as a grown up. See, I stumbled upon this initiative, Little Children, Big Challenges. It's an initiative to build resiliency in 2 to 5 year olds facing adversity. For me, Alex, the new kid on Sesame Street, whose dad isn't around because he's incarcerated. And then my heart sank. Like a shiny penny tossed in a well that hasn't fulfilled wishes since the war on drugs. Because I work with mentoring program designed to break the cycle of incarceration. Every workshop trains kids how to be stronger than a power-hungry police officer. Every field trip puts footprints in directions that don't follow their parents into the injustice system. You see, it was my job to teach them that they're valuable, worthy of love, but they're far more likely to be arrested in America than anywhere else on the planet. So I encourage them to see every moment as the most important moment of their lives, but it concerns me that there are Muppets also teaching our kids how to cope with incarceration. When did prison become part of the preschool curriculum? Sesame Street seems to understand that the prison industrial complex invests more for our kids than the state does. And the public school system isn't designed to deal with post-traumatic stress of midnight raids and stolen superheroes turned into villains. Who would tell the children that their parents are not monsters? At what point does, what authority does a teacher have over a parent's role behind bars when teachers call school police to drag students out of classrooms like religion and bar drunk? School starts to feel like a draft to the penitentiary or a pipeline to a 13th Amendment loophole. Sesame Street seems to understand the militarization of our schools, our neighborhoods, and our borders. What's next? Will Big Bird have a song called Hands Up? Hoping they won't shoot him for his clipped wings? Will Cookie Monster have to remind us that the police are always in interrogation mode, that everything you say and do will be counted against you, that they will profile him for something as silly as his last name? Now, see, Sesame Street is where a lot of us grew up learning the essentials to everyday life. But at what point do we realize that everyday life includes 2.7 million children with parents locked up? And that's an 80% increase in only 20 years. So if we don't do something more than just Muppets, 70% of them are likely to get swallowed up. I hope Alex beats the odds against and makes it out of Sesame Street to become far greater than the weight of his talent.
Okay.
Village of Comics, that is the name of the program, for roughly 12 years, since 2009, I helped it launch. I was the educational consultant, I designed workshops, we went on field trips, and we did summer camps every year. We did a retreat, and it was always the summer camps. I was always a part of some youth program. And since I was in high school at Kearney, I had participated in some sort of a summer camp for every year, up until I stepped down from the Village of Commerce. That was in 2000, I want to say 2019. So every summer I always look forward to for the camp retreat, mostly up in Julian. There was, we have several campsites there that we frequented. Cedar Glen, Camp Cedar Glen, anyone familiar?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Really great people, and that's sort of home base in terms of summer camps for me. And then there's another one, Whispering Winds, that at the time there was a worker there, Annie, and she was awesome. So those are some shout out to some of the campsites out in San Diego, Julian, and being born and raised in San Diego, I love that I get to know some of the real mom and pop shops of San Diego, especially this one. Shout out to Space Bar. And so, that was a hard reality that I had to kind of work through, dedicate part of my life to, is how do we help what we call the invisible children of America, which is those who have been impacted by incarceration. It's not a conversation. There's no demographic that checks that off, right? There's nothing that filters for that demographic in the school system. So it was really interesting to see when students were having challenges in school. People don't really make that connection. It's like, what's going on out there, right? What's going on in your personal life that is disconnecting you from our system? And so shout out to Village of Promise. They're still doing amazing work. And what I had to do was I went to grad school, right? I went through my own mental health challenges, and a lot of the stuff that was kind of heavy on my heart, heavy on my mind. And so in order to challenge myself, I went to grad school, University of San Diego. They put out a new degree that was on Facebook, they advertised on Facebook, and I saw it. It was a Master's of Social Innovation. Well, what the fuck is that? Sounds amazing. So it was about how do we find the social innovations using social entrepreneurship or some sort of social enterprise, right? So it was basically a MBA in social change. And so that's sort of up my alley. I was doing that in my own personal life. I mean, I made it carved a niche myself, my career, right? Poetry and math. Whoa, how did I become this person? So I said, you know what, let's go deeper, let's learn. My focus was on what is the social innovation that needs to happen for education? And I decided, or I realized that it wasn't going to be in the school system. It was going to be in places like this. It was going to be in the learning that happens in every aspect that we can imagine, right? It's the things that we look up on YouTube, or now we have AI. So we got Grok, we got ChatGPT, like all these amazing tools that we have in order to level up in our own personal lives. So no matter how old you are or what your skill sets are, it is now the age of learning just what new things and how to apply it, how to pivot. So I created something called the Lighthearted Project. And it was this idea that if we are to solve problems, then we cannot think alike. We need diversity of thought. There's no way we're going to solve the problem if everyone in the room is an engineer, or if everyone in the room is a politician. So one thing I learned is that we need great minds from all aspects, all sectors, all industries, to be able to come together and really think critically about what are the systems that need to be improved upon in order for some said change to happen. So whatever it is that we are struggling with, whether it's a personal level, a interpersonal level, or a professional or societal level, there's ways to go about doing it using the lighthearted method, right? Because now I'm taking this concept and saying, you know what, like-minded isn't it. So anytime someone says, if you want to work for like-minded, with like-minded people, no, I will not be your yes person. You do not honor my new insights, and you will not be shutting me down. So I want to be able to train people on what it is to be like-hearted, right? How do we identify like-hearted people in our world, okay? And so the answer is simple. Your vibe is your tribe. We kind of inherently know this part. When we meet new people, we can say, nah, yeah, that guy's really cool. She's pretty awesome. I want to get to know her more, right? So it's that vibe. It's something that you really it's your inner instincts to say these are my people. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. And then here's another test. If you feel like you don't have to code switch in wherever you're with, there's a good chance you're in a lighthearted environment. If I feel like I have to code switch in order to make the party or the person feel comfortable, then something's off. I can't be my most authentic self because I have to hide parts of myself. So with that, I want to close out with this last poem, and this was actually written in 2008. And hopefully if it jogs your memory, what was happening around that time, and see how it applies to where we are now. And also it's a good wrap up for the rest of my poems as well. So if you're ready, say, let's go!
Let's go!
I believe that we were meant to be together. But something tells me that the dream of us just might be difficult to manifest into destiny. It's hard to believe in dreams when reality soaks in and it's raining on parades that march in the face of captive audience. You see, they applaud the idea of us, but the thought of us slips their mind as we pass between lines of doubt and cynicism and skepticism. That too am plagued with sketchy images of caricature fallacy. Am I falling for a false hope of the United States of a marriage-type relationship? Perhaps my visions of happy matrimony are distorted from bearing witness to adulterated behavior, but regardless of the random rumors that surround us every day, I still can't help but feel that your mass appeal was meant for me. And maybe my jealous tendencies are playing make-believe and trick me into thinking I'm being pawned as another fallen soldier with a wounded heart and scars that mark a lifetime of verbal battle. So I'm trying to forget about our past disputes and go with our differences. And I know it's difficult. When you tell me that you love me, I want to believe you. Even though I got tainted thoughts of you only playing mainstream and catering to foreign policies that never bothered to see community. I want to believe that you love me the way love was meant to be, unconditional, without restrictions or limitations and boundless of barriers that distract us from being us. So I want to reinvest in the possibility of us. I went about it all wrong at first when I battled 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath in an affluent neighborhood just so I can fit in with your desires. I give a portion of my wages to you well-being each paycheck, but each day gets more demanding. And honestly, I can't stand seeing your financial hardship while knowing your history of impulsive expenses spent on credit. And I wish I could rescue you from recession with bailout funds, but fathers to the other each day. Because at $2 to $4.50 a gallon and your economy falling, somehow I knew I had to drive the extra mile just to keep up with it. So I want to stop flattering with false feelings of infatuation and belief in love. Instead of inaccurate accusations of getting fucked in, you want to provide stimulus packages to your heart so that our souls can stand on rebuilt infrastructure left over from a corrupt foundation. But I need you to support me whenever I do, in sickness and in health, even when I'm not covered with Kaiser and full-time benefits. So how about we resuscitate this relationship and be each other's life support? How about we strengthen our hearts and exercise more on our First Amendment rather than our right to remain silent? See, I'm trying to mend our wrongs and write them into the Declaration of us so that we will proudly pledge allegiance under a God who knows the truth of how we came to be. So let me protect your honor. All I ask is that you don't treat me like a foreigner or a criminal or illegal or question my dedication to you. You see, I need you to support me whenever because I need you to support me. My whole identity as I accept yours because I believe in us, despite my insecurities, in spite of other opinions, and regardless of our far from flawless past. So how about we disregard what's past and perfect our future? There's hope for us. If you believe in the dream, you see, I love you. You love me. You love me now. My name is Viet. Thank you so much for your time. Donations at the knowledge. Is that one time? Catch up. Unfortunately, I did not bring any merch for sale. But if you do want to support, I do accept tips and donations. If you have Cash App or Venmo, the handle is B Knowledge, the letter B like Viet, and the word knowledge. So either of those work, or just come see me. I would love to meet you, connect more. Like, let's get lighthearted again. Like, I'm trying to. That's actually the key thing here. I'm trying to get lighthearted off the ground and launch this initiative. Thank you. Alfred.
Let's give him some more love, please.
I would love the video.
Yeah, we post them on YouTube.
You're an artist,
3 or 4
an artist and an activist. We need that more than ever now, especially these next 4 years. Definitely really need that. So, are you ready for some more poetry? So, I believe this is Zena, this is your first time with us, isn't it? So let's give her a warm second Sunday love. This is Zena.
Thank you. I'm gonna read 3 poems and no titles. The mold spread. While I clung to you. While I clung to the old of this life. Of this life I clung. The mold spread. Black speckled permanence. Time unsalvageable. Time free to where it is meant to be. Where the mold spread. And to all I am meant to let go. To no longer cling. You, the old, this life. What was bound to be lost. But I could not bear to lose. And it is not just the time that is now free. It is me. And the mold spread. The bird looked at a fish. Flopping out of water. Asking him to seem. So desperate. So loud. It hurt. Only briefly. Attentive. Before it hopped away. To tend to the sky elements. Not needing the mystery of water. For if I have all the sky to me, a garden of stars, of love and light, I need not dwell in the shadows of your life below the land. The garden of your darkness is not what I must tend, for I am abundant with my wings. I wish to live by the ocean. Mornings fresh, crisp as the edges, water collects. I do not wish to leave the brick, permanent, unlike islands rest. I want the old church to hold me, as the afternoon sun holds the sand. Softly, wiping away salt, the ocean gently wet to it. I want my time as still and same. Each day it lacks its life. Unlike the river, as chronic in its change, as different again. I must now be away from the trees that hold me in the turmoil I have bred, wanting the river to remain. And it is this way I have found the ocean, always meaning something grand. Some terminus, beginning or end. Some love, some story. A reminder to accept what is and just be. And now as I look like into water, remembering all the times it meant something, I feel its meaning now lie in its lack of up. To be at the ocean now means nothing.
I'm sorry, what?
Not in a way I've been playing. It
Yeah, you can turn them on.
is here, as am I, and that is all there is. So I can let my mind go, as I never did by rivers flow. I can rest like the ocean never does, or always is. I can rest because I can let ocean be, and for that I am, I be. Thank you. That was my first reading ever.
Yeah, please come back. See us next month. That's really good stuff. Give her some more love, please. So these two poets that you're hearing right now emailed me and asked about what's going on here. And I hope I made it very clear what was going on here. This is the place to be on Sunday for the food and the people and the poetry. And so let's give first time here. This is Arena K. Arena K.
Thank you so much. I hope everyone here likes old timey sailor poetry. This one is called The Sailor's Life, written by me and accompanied by Anita. Thank you so much. Upon the feathers of a storm stood a sailor, tall and proud, and sunk deep into the sea beneath the ice shroud. They found pieces of his ship, a fine mahogany was she, bones scattered in his final trip, yet in death with his love was he. What possessed him to this plight? Had he no home of own, no wife, no children to embrace? Was he truly all alone? Perhaps in soul he felt it so, when his wife said to him, "The coin is tight, she must be sold, and all she holds within. To be rid of all I live for is what you ask of me. I'd rather be in money poor," with a defiant look said he. "And whatever shall you do with that old ragged boat? I know this well, and so do you. She cannot stay afloat." The sailor knew his wife was right, but still he could not shake the feeling that he must take flight. For this sea his heart would ache. And so on one night, close to dawn, he snuck away the purse with care. A last embrace, then he was gone, with enough coin for the ship's repair. Whether there remained enough to feed his growing son did not concern him. The boy was tough, and he enjoyed the freedom won. He sent word out near and far that he was searching for a crew, and they poured out from every bar, old sailors yearning for the blue. Altogether 11 men, they met up at the shore. How they would be paid and when did not concern them anymore. In a calm of sea they set sail, virility of youth revived, bellies full of songs and ale after many years deprived. Then, on one clear morning, they heard whispers of a siren's voice. Within them all desire was burning. They did not have a choice. The captain wished to be Odysseus, and so he told his men, "Stuff your ears with wax, and thus we shall sail safely around the bend. But tie me to the mast, I say, for I shall hear the sirens sing." The crew did all this without delay, curious as to what that should bring. They saw the pleasure on his face as the sirens reached his ears. "We're almost past them, let's give chase. A siren song I also wish to hear." But the captain, he refused the wax, and so his sailors one by one freed their ears up, and with a blow off the ship they would jump and run. "At least untie me from the mast," cried out our sailor bold. But the hypnosis was too fast. They fell into the water cold. The clear skies turned to gray, and then into a storm. Skin raw, he swayed and swayed amidst the siren swarm. Then one came to him, slender, fair, laughing at his strife. Too stunned to look, he would not dare. The siren's face, his wife's. "Why is this happening to me? I am a good and honored man. Save my life, and unto thee great riches shall pour into your hand." "Oh, how I hear her wails and shrieks, for you have bared your fangs. Foolish man, you thought her meek," the siren simply sang. As the crashing waves embraced them, with a last breath, was he not warned? His soul already was condemned, for he left a woman scorned. Thank you.
When you have two brain cells left from all the parties in the seventies, you appreciate that much memory. Give her some more love for that. Please come back. Please come back next month. Okay, she has been here before. I think last time she was here, she had to leave early because we were both getting late. Please welcome Kathy Kay.
I don't want to follow that one. That was good. Well, I don't know if I'll have time for this. The wind around a bent stick on the ground near a paved road rises with swirling dust and discarded paper cups, then slams the side of a mailbox and whistles an uncanny melody. At the same place, but in a different time, a woman lives in a one-room log cabin. Overhanging forest trees shroud her home from view. She cooks something in a cast iron kettle, adding various flavors, stirring it over her hearth. A bookcase stands against one wall. Then a thick pine branch lands on her roof, snapped off by the ferocious wind. The woman goes outside and yells at the wind. Now I'll have to climb up onto my roof. The wind turns, hits her in the face with nothing but air, then begins to subside as if tamed for a moment, but then she hears it moving on elsewhere, farther away in the forest from where she lives in her one-room cabin. Come back, calls the woman to the wind. I'm about to cast a spell. Carry it to the whole forest and the land beyond. Smell the soup broth of my soup. It has a pennywort base flavored with toasted lion's mane. But it's no use. The wind has moved on. Only a peaceful, gentle breeze remains. She sighs and looks at her roof, estimating the climb. Brekma Kadirka, she chants in a low intonation as she stirs her soup. Let the healer who lives in the hut by the river receive 2 white chickens for his services next Monday, and may the settlers then revere him. Oh, never mind, this won't work, she sighs. I always wanted to cast a spell that would work. I'll just eat my soup and go to bed. Then the wind returns, tempted, most probably, by the smell of toasted lion's mane. However, the woman stays inside and huddles under her blankets as the wind tears away at her sturdy cabin walls and makes the trees sing and cough up bits of their branches, small pine twigs and bark. She feels it foolish to have asked the wind to listen. The healer who lives in the hut by the river rises to stir his yapon tea leaves into hot water that he has boiled in an old tin kettle over his hearth and stretches. The delicious tea will wake him up. Until then, he will feel still half possessed by the land of his dreams, which were wild last night, even disturbing. In his dreams, a brunette woman was dancing with a relentless wind. Although it was beautiful to watch, Rin had feared for the woman's safety. The wind tore at his home last night, and a few branches came loose and were lying on the ground. He would have to weave them back into the design of his wickiup later today, after drinking his tea and bathing in the river. The sun shines on the newly washed leaves. The wind left last night, leaving rain in its wake. Varied bird cries ring out, staccato and crescendo. Rin has an appointment coming up next Monday. Although he loves to heal, this will challenge him. He thinks of the forest, its herbs, stones, sticks, mushrooms, even smoke. Healing herbs added to ritual must take root. A terrible flu season had stricken the forest dwellers last year, so much so that going into the season this year, they have decided to enlist Rin's services. The swish of a raven's wing overhead interrupts his thoughts, and one the sun is on the animal's bluish wings as it passes by, heading toward a nest site. A feather floats down and lands at his feet. Rin picks up the feather and brings it inside, then runs his hand over it and wonders at this omen. hoping it means he will be able to cast light into the minds of the settlers, as well as fortify them against coming disease. Although the bird is clever and at times mischievous, Wren wonders how the crowd will absorb his spoken and demonstrated blessings. The forest dwellers, pioneers, Native Americans, and a traveling fur trapper migrate slowly to the open clearing where Wren will come with his ancient magic. A loosely constructed circle forms, and the people stand, waiting and whispering, or talking in low voices. The brunette woman with her long, lush hair stands apart, keenly attentive. She will remain silent and hope. Normally, medicine man does not work with prevention, only cures, and the people he will approach are not yet sick. But last year, the winter hurt them badly, and a lot of deaths and disabling sick spells happened. Sipping teas high in vitamin C while soaking in hot water to sweat out the cold or flu, then bundling up good, especially wrapping up one's neck at night, had helped. Wren, holding the bent stick in one hand, weaves his way through the forest on a faint path through the trees. He chants nearly under his breath as he approaches the clearing where the people have gathered. A rustic beige hand-woven linen bag hangs from one shoulder and carries ordinary objects or tools that he will use in enacting his sacred ritual. It is a crisp, sunny September morning, mist rising from off dew-dampened earth. The birds busy themselves with rapturous songs or with communicating to one another. Medicine Man appears from behind a line of thin trees. He wears a white tunic-style linen shirt with ruffles sewn onto long sleeves under a red robe and leggings decorated with navy blue trim. Scarlet feathers hold comb-backed hair. Wren walks out from behind the trees with purpose. He exudes calm and confidence, though he knows that to some extent he will have to rely on spontaneity. His eyes sweep the crowd. He places the bent stick on the ground and opens his beige knapsack. He takes out a long piece of straw, ties it in looping knots, and holds it up. He then begins a prayer to the sky god.
That's the way to tell a story, isn't it, Kathy?
Well, gosh,
You muscled through that 3 pages, didn't you?
I did. It was horrible. Great.
All right. We have a new person tonight. Let's give her a warm second Sunday love. This is Crystal.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've never done anything like this. Yeah, these are, it's 2, maybe. They're my musings on loving Scorpio men. And I would have thought of one else by now, but I haven't. So. A slumber provided no respite. Did I dream of you, think of you, breathe you in, and forget to exhale? There you go. There you are. Constant pulsing. I say a soft vesper, please grant me heart rest. But my misery is all I have left of you. If I can't have that, then I guess this will do. If only for a little while. In my moments of solitude, I'll replay every dream and every thought of you, over and over. Messy and love drunk, my tears make me sober, until I overindulge in your memory again. No love lived, but somehow still love lost. Only the second one. Hold, please. This one's also not titled, from like 5 years ago. The seed took root many moons ago. Those days, the constant upkeep made us all feel foolish. with me constantly emptying myself over and over in hopes that my killing would eventually blossom. I thought we were planting flowers, pretty, but ultimately trivial and novelist in comparison. A performance of affection for those who favor aesthetics over depth. The rainy season washed with the scent of revelation. The seed grew with a most malicious intent, existing without function, large like redwood, omnipresent like the spirit, becoming landmarks for the intangibles like resentment and deflation, admiration and home, forever a part of my ecosystem. Alas, we reap the benefits, which are far greater than its effects. Thank you.
So, David and Michael Turner and myself are glad that Marina read a poem about sailors. And here's another sailor, Michael Turner Ortega.
I'm gonna move that a little bit because I don't really need it. And it is too long. I'll put it back. My name's Michael Turner Ortega. I was on, where is he? I was on the LHJ. And there's somebody here that was on LHJ 1. Somebody here, my friend who was on LHJ 5. So I was like, oh, so that's so cool. Anyhow, here goes. Above, below, inside out. Can't imagine that I would do less talking and more listening. Everything seemed both meaningful and memorable in a grateful way, treating everyone sacred until the sacred in them remembers, holding on to thoughts and things, all done in a non-verbal way. There is no time construct. It's an endless moment that falls flat in your face, wakes you up to where you see the good in all things, hugged by compassion. Thank you. Okay.
Follow.
Our next poet's mom is my dental buddy, and my dental buddy is here tonight. Do not offer this man decaf. This is Chris Vinoy.
You're yelling from their many mouths, preoccupied both sides in their face. Not in my backyard. No mental hospitals, no halfway houses, no nuclear waste dumps. No, not in my backyard. The architects drew up plans for expansion. Then raised it, then consulted his horoscope, and raised it to a higher plane. The elevator operator floored it, big 47 stories, and proceeded to eat pigeons 2 at a time. The soldier spilled innocent blood all over the carpet while he was field stripping his war machine, while sipping Agent Orange and vodka. Babies in Bosnia play with unexploded bombs while they pick softly in their stateroom nurseries. Who is it? Oh, the doctor took my temperature, looked at his watch, and told me I would die someday. Once upon a time of mind, pain, madness grew. Twisted, dark, and blind it was, and only a summer knew. The thoughts that came from deep within the walls of this imprisoned being. But I could see they were there, tears upon the walls they cling, with fragments of forgotten love and other broken things. The stench of wasteful idleness brought down a cloud of gloom upon the valley between the walls where little hope was born. For lives a slave their whole life long for but one foolish thing, to die a death we all must face, an end to everything.
Our next poet is a visual artist. She wears that hat and also a wonderful poet. We did a workshop down on the border with children. And she had the children do some art about poetry that myself and some other poets read. This is Marjorie Pasoli.
Before I forget, whole separate side note, my dad's 36-foot Manchurian traders in our side yard. So if you ever want to come read that poem, there, hit me up. Wilderness places. Marked trees cut down to find a way home will be harder. A lone willow cups my face. She understands pain to be in the wilderness of despair. Its branches sweep the ground, reveals a vein of gold headed towards the sea, the place of us. Will it be the same? Room from stump to stump, count the rings of the fallen. A river of grief swirls at my ankles. Scissor birds cut rainbow confetti. A golden trail goes full spectrum. The moonrise makes it glow. Their bird's eye view sees the future, conveys possible paths of exploration. Footsteps propel me to the cove of what ifs. Cannot change the what was. Moonlight beckons me as it did you. Waves glisten from the cosmic disco ball. Wrote your name in the sand. The red tide lit it up neon blue. Felt echoes of yesterday. For many a year I paced the shoreline, watched countless stars fall and rise, sat with legs folded, palms open wide, found you residing within my left ventricle. Did not feel so alone in this windswept place, learned to be in two places at once. You guided me through the wilderness, now back at home with the oneness and self. Thank you. Here's a short 6-liner. I follow Complete the Haga, which are little whimsical drawings. And he does this weekly and it's a real blast. Dust sparkles mid-air, cracks in the linoleum, the sunbeam spotlight. Dishes in the sink, dancing in the kitchen. Do they really care?
Our next poet has a show on KNSJ, the Network of Social Justice, 89.1 FM. Her show is called The Electric Picnic. And many of the poets that you hear today have been on that show. And we appreciate her making poetry more visible, not only in our community, but with anybody who's listening to KNSJ. This is Sue Taylor. Jeff, you're on deck.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for staying around. It's getting dark out. My neighbor Kathy, her little dog Loki, and my dog Duffy are sort of friendly adversaries. So I wrote this. I have it dated August 2nd, 2024, one day after the prisoner exchange. And there have been prisoner exchanges. I can't exactly remember the details about that. It's called Freedom Behind Bars. Freedom behind bars is stone cold different. Behind bars, they could think what they wanted, but not out loud, and pray in silence. They could create mind pictures of their homeland living room, its long sat upon club chair, brown carpet. With closed eyes, they saw themselves in line to buy fish tacos. They touched their damp swimsuits hung to dry after a day of surfing. Freedom behind bars was chunky, sometimes indeterminate. It was little more than a moldy morsel. Freedom outside bars is terrifying, joyful, new, like saran wrap that you can't tear off without clinging to your hands. It reaches for the black metal iron door of the cell with its gaping mouth, waiting for the master key, forgetting that he is free. On the outside, this man moves freely from room to room without asking permission. Another loiters at his closet, full of trousers and shirts of every color and pattern. On the outside, they open the freezer to find a favorite ice cream and settle at the kitchen table with vote-by-mail ballots, pondering the choices. Only one or two worth choosing. A little over 60 days until the election. They are frustrated forest animals running for their lives from the raging fire.
Wow.
Thank you. I read this poem. I actually wrote this poem for a recent Activist San Diego meeting. And I'll just put a shout out to Activist San Diego, a really good organization. They're encouraging everybody to come out next Saturday, 12 o'clock at Harbor Drive for the People/Women's March. So if you feel protesty, my husband's at a group right now making protesty signs for the event. It's called Accept Joy. Come, full-faced lunar star. Come, moontide's promise. Come, expected joy. Come, friends and love. Come, forgiveness. Come, light and mindful change. Come, comfort to the world. Be here with hearthed and homeless, war-torn and worn down. Be here of health and togetherness. Security and friendship parks without walls. Be here hand to hand with voices singing, feet bearing beneficence, backs of resolve, wins small and large. Here, community and purpose. Come, be here tonight. This one's called Humankind. A mule in the Sierras rubs his side against the trees, but only a human can scratch the itch under its imploring chin, can flip over a dog and rub its hairless belly, can strew breadcrumbs on fake grass for the two-footed hopping crows, can pour clean water in the bird bath. A kind human takes the doctor's advice seriously and spares his family's tears, bakes the 16-ingredient cheesecake and not the 5-ingredient one, listens heart to heart, touches hand on hand, flies over the ocean to meet cousins on Halloween. A human listens to the voices. A man, woman springs out of bed to write last night's dream into a bespoke and beautiful poem. Kindness isn't convenient or easily concocted. It might require planning. Unless in perfect presence you are there, ready, with wordless attention or words you didn't know you know. One more. I guess I don't have time for one more. But anyway, my book is here. The Electric Picnic, Poetry for Nice People and Good Dogs. Second Sunday special, $10 today. Thank you.
Our last poet today is a friend of mine. I have used his poems in treatment centers for veterans who are survivors of trauma on my online veterans poetry courses and in treatment centers for alcoholics and drug addicts. He writes from his heart, very talented. This is Jeff G.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for y'all coming to great poetry. So this is part of my journey, and I wrote it the last year, and it's called My Journey. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. For some reason, my light wants to go down now. Okay. My journey began when I embraced my darkness and stopped running from it. Like the cosmos, accepting its black holes as well as its supernovas and everything in between. Let's welcome the dark nooks and crannies in our house of humanity to see what it might teach and allow us to release. For we're not the forces beyond my control and the violent Big Bang that was my adolescence, informing my undesirables, not the same ones that honed yours. And perhaps if we are quiet and welcome the antimatter within us all, we shall see there was a purpose, though not originally living in our consciousness, that helped propel us in the glory of the stars at night in a blackened desert place, that though dry and apparently lacking light, had served its purpose too. For if we plume our unwanted bits and pieces, instead of treating them like a stray or mad dog to be shunned, what if we embrace them instead and say, hello, come into the light so we may see you more clearly. Perhaps you are not the boogeyman of my morbid childhood, nor the grim reaper with threats and taunts, but instead a sacred friend that allowed me to live, without whose mercilessness I would not know mercy, without whose cruelty I would not know compassion, without whose uncertainty I would not know clarity, and without whose judgmentalism I would not know forgiveness. One more. So it's called I'm a Man. I'm a man who X and Y's coordinates on the school occupational tests intersect where nothing exists. I am a man that learned early on to take on many personas to stay alive. I'm a man who loves rock, jazz, R&B, and other world music, who can get lost for a day in my own private music festival. I'm a man who loves to meet others to see what they might teach and how we might connect. I'm a man of Purple Rain, Black Sabbath, and Blue Oyster Cult. I'm a man who longs to channel Patti Smith, Marvin Gaye, and Neil Peart. I'm a man who appears conventionally white on the outside, but is truly Black, queer, feminine, masculine, Hispanic on the inside. I'm a man who loves carnivals, forests, and cities and with faraway names. I'm a man who loves the smell of jasmine, gingerbread, and car exhaust on a 0-degree weather. I'm a man who loves Eastern cultures, scary movies, and star-filled skies. I'm a man who loves social justice, compassion for the masses, and saving the unsavable. I'm a man of circumspection, hard-won self-esteem, and cheerleader of the downtrodden. I am a man.
Thanks, Jeff. Come back next month. I'd like to see you here. So you spent another Sunday with us. I wonder if we can give some more love for the gentleman in the hat, Mr. Jihmye over there. Love you, Jerry. And congratulations one more time on being the #1 team in the nation in 2017. 85 team, Denver, Colorado. That was so cool. That event that Sue talked about, let me just say this. This is a march that they're going to do for climate change, for treating trans people with equality, immigrant justice. I'm the great grandson of an immigrant that came here to this country to work. And so if you're messing with immigrants, you're messing with my family. And so there's just a lot going on with that. I hope you'll show up for that march. And also want to mention, this is going to be on the internet now, what we did today. So Alliance San Diego is doing an all people's breakfast. It's coming up real fast. And if you go to their breakfast, there's a lot of resources that are there for a lot of different people, because we want to make sure that this poster I got at the Viet Museum in San Francisco 2 years ago, we want to make sure we bring that alive, not just for in here, but out there. So we have a little tradition in here. If you want to hang out and talk to one of the poets about their influences or what they like or what they don't like, please do. And we invite you to do that because we want to have community here as well. And so this is our last poem for the day. It's called, I want to thank Joe, Mike, Billy Kay, and Bruce, because we get together every now and then and we do critique workshops with each other. And they said I should change the title of this poem, When You Say Vietnam. It starts with an epigram. South Vietnam, especially the southern 1/3 of the country, is covered with waterways, both natural and man-made. This created a logistical nightmare for the ground forces of the United States. The Navy responded to this problem by the creation of the Mobile Riverine Force, consisting of armored troop carriers, monitors similar to the Civil War variety, command and communications boats, assault support patrol boats, flamethrower equipped boats, and refueling boats, all of which were served and supported by a fleet of troop ships, LSTs, that's what I was on, repair ships, barracks barges, and other supporting vessels. The Mobile Riverine Force became the partnership between the Army and Navy in fighting the war in the rice paddies, canals, and treacherous waterways of the South. And that's by a man named Don Blankenship, who was part of the Mobile Riverine Force. Here's the poem. I sent my shadow back to the war, to the rivers, to the firefights, to the blackened palm tree stumps, from the deafening mortars and rockets, blackened palm tree stumps as far as the eye could see. My shadow knelt, sending a prayer to the sailors and soldiers who died here, downtown. Too many sacrificed on both sides to the false gods of war, in the heat and the sweat and the fire, in the booms and the bams and the rat-a-tat-tats, in the lost legs, the lost arms, the lost eyes, in the mud and the blood and the rain. My shadow returned from the war, knowing this poem was my pen moving across the page, healing my military heart, healing from what I never wanted to see, healing from what I never wanted to do. My shadow knew this poem was discovery. This poem was mystery. This poem was wondering that maybe the poem, maybe the medicine poem that reveals to me how to finally stop weeping when you say Vietnam. How when you say Gaza, when you say LA wildfires, when you say small boy we call Agent Orange. See you next month. Thanks for coming.